Okay, so I need to be careful with cutting the edges and the bevels. I'm going to cut to width first. I need to true up one side. In doing that, I need to cut first the inside of every pair so that I cut off the same amount, and as close as possible these meet up together there and there, while still aligning as much as possible top and bottom. If I do just, for example, the left side all the way across, I'm worried that as I glue up, I'm going to end up with this situation, that's obviously exaggerated, around the shell, trying to make sure that each highlight strip matches. So I need to try and mitigate that as much as possible. I've got some extra height to work with. This is going to be a pretty deep snare, relatively speaking, because we have 10 inches of depth right there. So that's a pretty big snare drum. But again, I want it to be as lined up with the chevron pattern as possible all the way around the shell. Okay, so you can see that if I make these line up perfectly, it's hard to do with the camera also in my hand, they're not quite perfectly there, but that is close enough. Nice tight joint. So I measure my angle with my angle gauge from both sides, and I think I've got it at 15 degrees. I'm going to run through a test piece just to make sure. This is set to 15 off of 90, so it's actually a 75-degree angle, but that's what we're looking for. And we are right on the money. Cutting a test piece when you're checking for angles is as invaluable as dry fitting before a glue up. That's 3 3/4 plus a 32nd. Not that being that accurate is all that important, but you know, just want to be careful. Now, like before, I have to alternate which side I'm cutting, and now that I have one true side on each stave, I will run this side along the fence so that the numbers are on the outside of the shell. So wider on this side, narrower on this side. before I go in and glue things up, I left it just a fraction, just a hair wide. So I'm going to go back and do a finishing pass on. I already did it on the one side, and it gave me a better finish. And I found that generally, even with the old saw, that if the bulk pass where I'm cutting off the most of the angle, the blade's always going to jitter a little bit. Maybe it's just, unless I had a nice cabinet saw, which frankly isn't going to happen. But if I then just shave off the tiniest little bit on a second pass to bring it to exact width, then I get a much cleaner surface. So I'm going to do that really quick. Hard to tell on the camera, but that's a much better finish. It's not perfect, and I'm gonna have to do something different when I do the hardwoods, like the exotic hardwoods, but that is very good for this. It's one of my favorite parts, doing a drum, milling the outside. Overall, I'm very pleased with the glue up. The one spot that gave a little bit of trouble was between the first and last stave when they came back together. I knew there was going to be a problem because I couldn't get everything perfect. Getting those, well, all 12 are perfectly lined up except for where they came back together. And that's a very minor issue. Honestly, hardware and an air vent are going to go there or something like that. I'm not worried about it. That took forever. Blade's dull, and it's a big drum. 23 minutes to go through that first pass. is the next day. The glue is cured. Did quite a bit of it actually. And I did a skim pass to clean off the buildup and also to go just maybe a 1/16 of an inch deeper all the way around. And there are still some areas where the glue didn't penetrate that will need further stabilization, but I'm close enough now to diameter. And I made myself a gauge, you could call it, I suppose, which is exactly 13.75 inches wide, and it doesn't quite go over. So we've got a little bit yet to go, probably one more pass, and then I'm going to do some more super glue to further stabilize some of the bad sections before sanding, and then do a final skimming pass to the exact same depth, which will also take care of cleaning up the vent insert, which is going to come from this. These are scrap pieces that I cut ages and ages ago from that same coat, and I took 4 of them and glued them together last night. And we're going to go ahead and drill the plug and then insert it. This is the spot where it doesn't line up well, and on one of those two, either up there or down there, probably at this spot, because I want the yellow to be on the bottom. Put the air vent right here, maybe the strainer will go right there, just to hide that misalignment. It's somewhere between the 300 and 400 grits the wood starts to glow. This is sanded to 600. All the voids and imperfections, the little cracks, and well, that was actually kind of a big crack, are all filled in and smooth as glass. I will take it further than 600, but not till after the drum is done being built. And then I will probably wet sand with Danish oil.